At the far edge of a small mountain village, where the mist touched the rooftops every morning and the pines whispered softly to the wind, there lived an old lady in a stone cottage. Her house was small, so small that when she lit the fire in winter, the whole room seemed to glow with warmth. The roof sagged a little, the windows were crooked, and the floor creaked with every step. But it was full of love. The old lady had no family left. Her husband had passed away long ago, and she had never been blessed with children. She had no money to speak of, just a small garden, a few chickens, and the company of the wind that always came to visit. But she had something far rarer than wealth or fame. She had peace. Every morning she rose before the sun. She would open her door, breathe in the cold mountain air, and smile at the sight of the first light touching the peaks. Then she would gather herbs, collect a few vegetables from her garden, and prepare a simple pot of soup. It wasn't grand, but it was always warm, and it always tasted of home. She liked to hum while she cooked. Old songs, soft melodies from another time. No one else remembered the words anymore, but that didn't matter. The songs lived in her heart, and that was enough. The villagers liked her very much. Children ran to her cottage for warmth in winter, and grown-ups came when they felt tired or lost. She never had much to give them, just a smile, a kind word, maybe a bowl of soup, but somehow that was always enough to make their hearts lighter. "Why are you always smiling?" they would ask her, and she would laugh softly, as if the question itself were too simple. "Because there's always something to be thankful for," she'd say, "even if it's just the sound of the wind." One autumn evening, when the mountains were draped in orange light and the first chill of winter had begun to creep in, a knock echoed softly on her wooden door. It was strange. She rarely had visitors so late. She wiped her hands on her apron and opened it slowly. A traveler stood there, tall and cloaked, his face shadowed by the dim glow of twilight. His eyes were deep and knowing, and though his clothes were dusty from the road, there was something unusual about him. Something that made the air feel still. "Good evening," said the old lady kindly. "You must be cold." "Come in," the traveler smiled faintly. "I thank you, ma'am, but I did not come for warmth. I came for you." "For me?" she asked, surprised. He nodded. "I've heard about you, about the woman who lives alone at the edge of the world and still smiles every day, about the one who has nothing, yet seems to have everything." The old lady chuckled. "People say many things when they don't understand simple happiness." The traveler stepped closer. "Perhaps. But tonight I've come to offer you something, a choice." She tilted her head. "A choice?" "Yes," he said. "There are 3 doors. Behind one of them is your deepest desire. Behind the other 2, only disappointment. You may choose one, and what lies behind it will be yours." The old lady frowned gently. "Young man, I'm too old to chase after dreams. My time for such things has long passed," but the traveler's eyes glimmered. "Please, just look." "No harm in looking." There was something about his voice, soft but commanding, that made her heart curious. So she took her shawl, locked her small wooden door, and followed him. They walked through the fields under the quiet stars. The moon rose above the mountains, lighting their path with silver. The night smelled of pine and distant rain. After a while, they reached a wide meadow she had never seen before, a place where the grass swayed like waves in the dark, and there, in the middle of the meadow, stood 3 doors. They were standing alone, with no walls around them, no buildings, just doors rising from the earth like strange sentinels. One was golden and gleamed even in the moonlight, its surface shining like treasure. The second was wooden, plain but sturdy, like the door of a humble cottage. The third was old and rusted, its hinges creaking softly as the wind touched it. The traveler gestured toward them. "Choose one. Behind one of these doors is what you've always wanted most." The old lady looked at them silently. The golden door shimmered with promise. The wooden door looked safe, familiar. The rusted door looked tired, forgotten. She studied them for a moment. Then, without hesitation, she began to walk toward the rusted one. The traveler blinked in surprise. "Why that one?" he asked. "It's broken. It's old. The others are far more beautiful." The old lady smiled, her eyes soft as the moonlight. Because the most beautiful things in my life have always come in old, worn packages, she said. And besides, new things make too much noise. Old things have learned how to be quiet. The traveler watched her hand reach for the handle. The rust flaked beneath her fingers. She turned it slowly, and the door creaked open. Inside, there was nothing. Only dust, only silence, a hollow space that led nowhere. The traveler stared at her, waiting for disappointment. "Aren't you upset?" he asked. "You've chosen emptiness." But the old lady only smiled again. "No," she said softly. "I came into this world with nothing, and I still have my smile. So I haven't lost anything at all." The traveler was silent. The night wind moved through the meadow, whispering between the doors. The stars above seemed to listen. She turned away from the empty doorway and looked up at him kindly. "You see," she said, "people chase after things all their lives, gold, beauty, youth, but they forget how to be content. I've learned that peace doesn't live behind doors. It lives here." She touched her heart. The traveler said nothing. He only looked at her, as though he were seeing something he hadn't seen in centuries. And as the old lady began to walk away, her shawl brushing the grass, her small frame glowing faintly in the moonlight, he realized that her simplicity carried a truth deeper than any treasure he could offer. The traveler stood silently in the meadow, his gaze fixed on the old woman walking back toward the mountains. Her steps were slow but steady, her back slightly bent, her face calm. Something about her peace unsettled him. It was too effortless, too pure, like the calm before dawn. He turned back to the 3 doors, his brow furrowing. For some reason, he felt compelled to open the others. First, he approached the golden door. The metal gleamed under the moonlight, and when he touched it, warmth spread through his hand. He pulled it open, and a flood of light spilled out. A mountain of treasure, gold coins shimmering, jewels glowing like stars. The wealth of kings and empires, all glittering in silence. Then he turned to the wooden door and opened it. Inside was a mirror. But not just any mirror. It shimmered like still water, showing not his reflection, but the image of the old lady, except she wasn't old anymore. She was young, radiant, dressed in fine clothes, her hair black and shining. Her cottage was gone. In its place stood a grand house with windows that sparkled in the sun. She was surrounded by people, laughter, and music. The traveler closed his eyes. When he looked again, the reflection smiled. The young version of the old lady smiled, and then faded into mist. He turned around. The real old lady was far away now, her small figure almost lost against the rolling hills. She had chosen the rusted door, the one that offered nothing, and yet somehow she had walked away richer than before. He whispered to himself, "You could have had all of this. You could have been wealthy. You could have had back your youth. You could have had so much more." But as the words left his lips, he realized how hollow they sounded. More than what? The echo of his own voice seemed to ask the question back. He followed her slowly, drawn by a feeling he couldn't name. By the time he reached her cottage, she had already lit her small fire again. The golden glow flickered against the stone walls, painting everything with warmth. She was sitting by the hearth, stirring her pot of soup, humming her forgotten tune. The traveler stepped quietly to the doorway. "You really don't regret your choice?" he asked softly. She looked up and smiled. "No, I already chose the right door." He frowned. "Even though it gave you nothing?" She chuckled. "Nothing? Oh, no, young man. It gave me something very precious. It gave me the chance to prove that peace cannot be bought or lost. That it lives in me, not in what I open." He sat down by the fire, watching her. The room smelled of herbs and warm broth. A small clock ticked gently on the wall. Everything felt simple. But in that simplicity, there was something sacred. "Do you know," she said quietly, "when I was younger, I used to think happiness meant having more. More food, more friends, more laughter. But then life took things away, one by one, and I learned that happiness isn't in addition. It's in subtraction. When you remove fear, greed, and comparison, what remains is peace." The traveler nodded slowly, his eyes thoughtful. "Most people spend their lives looking for doors," he murmured. They never realize they already live behind the right one. The old lady smiled again. Exactly. And if you ever doubt it, just make a little fire, cook a simple meal, and be grateful that you're still here to taste it. Outside, the wind began to rise. The night grew colder, but inside, the warmth of the little fire was enough for both of them. The traveler felt something inside him shift, a quiet understanding he hadn't felt in a long time. When dawn arrived, the mountains turned golden. The traveler rose to leave. The old lady handed him a small bowl of soup. "For the road," she said. He accepted it with both hands, bowed his head, and smiled. "Thank you for everything." As he walked away, he turned once more to look at the cottage. The smoke rose gently from the chimney. The small window glowed with morning light, and somewhere inside, he could still hear her humming. For the first time in many years, the traveler smiled, not the smile of a man who had found treasure, but the quiet smile of someone who had finally understood it. And in the meadow, where the 3 doors had once stood, there was now only grass. No gold, no mirrors, no rust. Just open air, sunlight, and the soft whisper of the wind. Sometimes happiness is not behind the golden door. It isn't in what you gain, or what you keep, or what the world promises. It's in being thankful even when the door is empty. It's in smiling when life feels small, and knowing that peace once found is the greatest treasure of all.